What is the creepiest and most unexplainable paranormal experience you've ever had? I've never really believed in ghosts. Not seriously. Sure, creepy things happen, but there's always a logical explanation, right? At least, that's what I thought before my husband and I bought a 130-year-old building next to a church in a quiet part of town. It was a rundown relic, falling apart at the seams, which is why we could afford it. We turned it into a martial arts school and moved into the apartment upstairs. The place had history. It creaked and groaned, had drafty corners and outdated knob and tube wiring we had to rip out and replace. But it wasn't just the building's age that unsettled me. It was what came with it. It started small. We were doing renovation work, using drills and saws, when I began to hear it. The faint tinkling of a music box. I'd stop everything and ask, "Do you hear that?" No one ever did. I chalked it up to sound bleeding over from the church next door. But it didn't stop. My husband began hearing a woman's voice calling his name from the bottom of the stairs. He'd always assume it was me and call out for me to come up. But the building was empty. This happened 4 or 5 times. Then there was the sweeping. One night, we were in bed upstairs when we heard a broom dragging across the wooden floors of the main hall. The sound stopped the moment my husband entered the room. It happened 3 more times that night. We tried to rationalize it. Mice? Squirrels? We had found a mummified squirrel in the attic before, after all. But the noises became more deliberate. One evening during a backyard BBQ, I ran inside to grab utensils. As I came up the main stairs, I heard footsteps pacing at the far end of the hall. It was dark. I thought my husband had come up the back metal stairs and was messing with me. I called out. Nothing. The pacing stopped, then resumed. I flipped on the lights. At that exact moment, every utensil on the shelf came crashing to the floor. No one was there. Then came the stereo incident. Saturday morning. My husband was on his computer, and I was in the apartment playing with the Tamagotchi app. Suddenly, the stereo in front of me clicked on. A girl's voice started speaking. I assumed my husband had turned on music remotely. "Hi, my name is Katie. I'm 8 years old," the voice said. I barely paid attention, until the voice said, "Something's hurting me." I looked up. "Something's killing me. Something killed me." I froze. Then, "Please, someone tell my parents, tell the teachers, tell the corrections officer." I bolted into the next room and started screaming at my husband. I accused him of pulling a sick prank. But when he calmed me down and walked me back to the stereo, he showed me it wasn't plugged in, not even connected to anything. I tried to convince myself it picked up interference from a nearby device. That explanation never sat right. After that, I asked our live-in student and his girlfriend if anything weird had happened to them. They exchanged a look and shared their stories. One night, while he was working a night shift, his girlfriend heard someone come down the stairs and open their door. A flashlight shone in her face. She could make out a tall figure in dirty jeans. Thought it was him. She swatted at him, annoyed, but when she turned on the lamp, no one was there. They heard footsteps on the first floor when no one was around. Their pet mouse would go berserk during those times, doing backflips in its tank. When class was going on and people were in the building, the mouse didn't care at all. Then the parrot incident. They were play wrestling in their apartment when their African gray parrot suddenly ruffled its feathers and said, clear as day, "Who's there? Who's there?" They laughed at first. The boyfriend pointed to the door and said, "Over here," and ran toward it. The second he did, the books lining the shelf all fell over and the lights began to flicker. The mouse and the parrot both went wild, thrashing and screeching in their cages. The student who moved in after them had his own issues. Several times, he'd wake up and find his phone missing. He swore he left it by his bed. Eventually, he'd find it sitting neatly outside his locked bedroom door. His girlfriend, a light sleeper, never noticed him getting up. Nothing has happened since those days. Then again, we haven't had anyone stay overnight in years. Maybe that's why it's been quiet. I still don't know what to believe. Mold? Maybe. Hallucinations? Possibly. I once had a week-long episode years earlier where I hallucinated people and vividly colored spiders crawling on me. But it never happened again. All I know is what we heard, what we saw, and what we felt in that building. And I haven't forgotten it. You don't forget the day a stereo tells you someone was murdered. You don't forget when the ghosts in your home stop hiding.